Well, welcome back for round 3. You will be hearing the third and final poem from each of our competitors. And so, without further ado, we will just begin our round 3 with the final recitation by Sara Ashbaugh.
More Lies by Karen Gottschall. Sometimes I say I'm going to meet my sister at the cafe, even though I have no sister, just because it's such a beautiful thing to say. I've always thought so, ever since I read a novel in which 2 sisters were constantly meeting in cafes. Today, for example, I walked alone on the wet sidewalk, wearing my rain boots, expecting someone might ask where I was headed. I bought a steno pad and a watch battery. The store windows fogged up. Rain in April is a kind of promise, and it costs nothing. I carried a bag of books to the cafe and ordered tea. I like a place that's lit by lamps. I like a place where you can hear people talk about small things, like the difference between azure and cerulean, or the price of tulips. It's going down. I watched someone who could be my sister walk in, shaking the rain from her hair. I thought, even now florists are filling their coolers with tulips. $5 a bundle. All over the city there are sisters. Any one of them could be mine.
In the Harvard Business Review blog, a November 2012 entry, contributor John Coleman says he's written in the past about how business leaders should be readers, emphasizing poetry as a valuable genre. He quotes another business expert stating, "Poets are our original systems thinkers. They look at the most complex environments and they reduce the complexity of something to something we can understand, or at least begin to understand." This is the last recitation from Kyle McDonald.
Miss Ellen Watkins Harper. The dying words of Goethe. Light, more light. The shadows deepen, and my life is ebbing low. Throw the windows widely open. Light, more light, before I go. Softly let the balmy sunshine play around my dying bed. Ere the dimly lighted valley I with lonely feet must tread. Light, more light, for death is weaving shadows round my waning sight, and I, fain, would gaze upon him through a stream of earthly light. Not for greater gifts of genius, not for thoughts more grandly bright. All the dying poet whispers is a prayer for light, more light. Heeds he not the gathered laurels, fading slowly from his sight? All the poet's aspirations center in that prayer for light. Gracious Savior, when life's daydreams melt and vanish from the sight, may our dim and longing vision then be blessed with light, more light.
Poetry Out Loud has helped our next student appreciate what a valuable support network she has around her. She says, "From my incredible teachers taking time out of their schedules to help me perfect my recitations, to my family, friends, and classmates, all have been supportive throughout this undertaking. Most of all, Poetry Out Loud has helped me find my voice. I have found strength in the words of others, and this has affected every aspect of my life for the better." Here, with her third poem, Alyssa, Moncure.
Vigil Strange I Kept on the Field One Night by Walt Whitman. Vigil strange I kept on the field one night, when you, my son, and my comrade dropped at my side that day. One look I but gave, which your dear eyes returned with a look I shall never forget. One touch of your hand to mine, O boy, reached up as you lay on the ground. Then, onward I sped in the battle, the even contested battle, till late in the night relieved to the place at last again I made my way. Found you in death so cold, dear comrade. Found your body sung of responding kisses, never again on earth responding. Bared your face in the starlight, curious the scene, cool blew the moderate night wind. Long there and then in vigil I stood, dimly around me, the battlefield spreading. Vigil wondrous and vigil sweet, there in the fragrant silent night. But not a tear fell, not even a long-drawn sigh, long, long I gazed. Then on the earth, partially reclining, sat by your side, leaning my chin in my hand. Passing sweet hours, immortal and mystic hours with you, dearest comrade. Not a tear, not a word. Vigil of silence, love, and death. Vigil for you, my son and my soldier. As onward silently stars aloft, eastward, new ones upward stole. Vigil final for you, brave boy. I could not save you, swift was your death. I faithfully loved you and cared for you living. I think we shall surely meet again. Till at latest lingering of the night, indeed, just as the dawn appeared. My comrade I wrapped in his blanket, enveloped well his form. Folded the blanket well, tucking it carefully overhead and carefully under feet. And there and then, embathed by the rising sun, my son in his grave, in his rude dug grave, I deposited. Ending my vigil strange with that, vigil of night in battlefield dim, vigil for boy of responding kisses, never again on earth responding. Vigil for comrades swiftly slain, vigil I never forget, how as day brightened. I rose from the chill ground and folded my soldier well in his blanket and buried him where he fell.
It's clear each of these participants devoted a good deal of time and energy to the memorization process. I'm guessing many of you parents might be able to recite a few of these poems from memory as well after hearing them a few hundred times. American poet John Hollander says, "We speak of memorizing as getting something by heart, which really means by head. But getting a poem or prose passage truly by heart implies getting it by mind and memory and understanding and delight." With her third poem, here's Allie Walker.
I'm a Fool to Love You by Cornelius Eady. Some folks will tell you the blues is a woman, some type of supernatural creature. My mother would tell you, if she could, about her life with my father, a strange and sometimes cruel gentleman. She would tell you about the choices a young black woman faces. Is falling in love with some man a deal with the devil? In blue terms, the tongue we use when we don't want nuance to get in the way, when we need to talk straight. My mother chooses my father after choosing a man who was, as we sing it, of no account. This man made my father look good. That's how bad it was. He made my father seem like an island in the middle of a stormy sea. He made my father look like a rock. And is the blues the moment you realize you exist in a stacked deck? You look in a mirror at your young face, the face my sister carries, and you know it's the only leverage you've got. Does this create a hurt that whispers, how you going to do? Is the blues the moment you shrug your shoulders and agree a girl without money is nothing, dust, to be pushed around by any old breeze? Compared to this, my father seems, briefly, to be a fire escape. This is the way the blues works. It's sorry wanders make trouble look like a feather bed, makes the wrong man's kisses a healing.
Poetry out loud's good for students and teachers alike. A Missouri teacher reflected on the project by saying the following: "This brings poetry off the page in a beautiful way for my students and for me. This activity changes the climate of my classroom for the entire year. I've even memorized and recited a poem for the students too," said the teacher. And that, to borrow a famous poem line, has made all the difference. With his last poem, Alex Hall.
I Am the People, The Mob, by Carl Sandburg. I am the people, the mob, the crowd, the mass. Do you know that all the great work of the world is done through me? I am the working man, the inventor, the maker of the world's food and clothes. I am the audience that witnesses history. Napoleons come from me, and the Lincolns. They die, and then I send forth more Napoleons and Lincolns. I am the seed ground. I am a prairie that will stand for much plowing. Terrible storms pass over me. I forget. The best of me is sucked out and wasted. I forget. Everything but death comes to me and makes me work and give up what I have. And I forget. Sometimes I growl, shake myself, and spatter a few red drops for history to remember. Then I forget. When I, the people, learn to remember, when I, the people, use the lessons of yesterday and no longer forget who robbed me last year, who played me for a fool, then there will be no speaker in all the world say the name, the people, with any fleck of a sneer in his voice or any far-off smile of derision. The mob, the crowd, the mass will arrive then.
Remember how I said earlier that I was convinced that this activity made us better thinkers? Well, we teachers aspire to get students to high levels of rigor and relevance in our classroom, to synthesize and evaluate, construct and apply their daily life to their learning and their learning to their daily life. I want you to listen to these words from this next student. She said, "Like a piano piece you know by heart, the poem becomes a part of who you are. Sometimes the poem, in the back of your mind, affects the way you view your life. Other times, the events of your life affect the way you view the poem. Now, if that's not proof of higher level thinking, then I really don't know what is. With her last recitation, here's Reagan Kapp.
Candles by Carl Dennis. If on your grandmother's birthday you burn a candle to honor her memory, you might think of burning an extra to honor the memory of someone who never met her. A man who may have come to the town she lived in, looking for work and never found it. Picture him taking a stroll one morning after a month of grief with the want ads to refresh himself in the park before moving on. Suppose he notices on the gravel path the shards of a green glass bottle that your grandmother, then still a girl, will be destined to step on when she wanders barefoot away from her school picnic. If he doesn't stoop down and scoop the mess up with the want ad section and carry it to a trash can. For you to burn a candle for him, you needn't suppose the cut would be a deep one. Just deep enough to keep her at home the night of the hayride when she meets Helen, who is soon to become her dearest friend, whose brother, George, 30 years later, helps your grandfather with a loan so his shoe store doesn't go under in the Great Depression. And his son, your father, is able to stay in school where his love of learning is fanned into flames. A love he labors, later, to kindle in you. How grateful you are for your father's efforts is shown by the candles you've burned for him. But today, for a change, why not a candle for the man whose name is unknown to you? Take a moment to wonder whether he died at home, with friends and family, or alone on the road, on the lookout for no one to sit at his bedside and hold his hand. The very hand it's time for you to imagine holding.
If you're enjoying the performances you're seeing today and would like to see more, poetryoutloud.org is a wonderful site to see video examples and hear audio examples of outstanding performances. You can also see video examples of previous Missouri state contests on YouTube. I think you can just search within YouTube, but it is in the Department of Economic Development's tag, so you can get to those if you just look on your search browser there on YouTube. There are also teacher's guides on poetryoutloud.org and numerous resources for poetry materials, and they're accessible to all of us. They're free, they're for poetry lovers, not just teachers, so you can find out all sorts of things about how to interpret a poem and how to speak a poem. It's now time for the third poem from Enoch Bradshaw.
Medusa by Louise Bogan. I had come to the house in a cave of trees facing a sheer sky. Everything moved. A bell hung ready to strike. Sun and reflection wheeled by. When the bare eyes were before me and the hissing hair held up at a window seen through a door, the stiff, bald eyes, the serpents on the forehead formed in the air. This is a dead scene forever now. Nothing will ever stir. The end will never brighten it more than this, nor the rain blur. The water will always fall, and will not fall, and the tipped bell make no sound. The grass will always be growing for hay deep on the ground, and I shall stand here like a shadow under the great balanced day, my eyes on the yellow dust that was lifting in the wind and does not drift away. Thank you.
The National Finals judging pool is a who's who in the artistic community. Famous poets, arts critics, arts advocates, and other champions in and champions of the arts have been known to be there each year. This year, the 2014 Poetry Out Loud Finals will be in the Lisner Auditorium at the George Washington University, April 29th and 30th. If you feel like making a trip to see our state champion, admission is free and open to the public, but the contest will also be webcast live at arts.gov. That's how I intend to watch it this year. It's exciting to know that one of these 10 people will represent our state at the national contest just next month. With his last recitation, Tom Fields.
The Canonization by John Donne. For God's sake, hold your tongue and let me love. Or chide my palsy, or my gout, my 5 gray hairs, or ruined fortune flout. With wealth your state, your mind with arts improve. Take you a course. Get you a place. Observe his honor, or his grace, or the king's real, or his stamped face. Contemplate what you will. Approve. So you will let me love. Alas, alas, who's injured by my love? What merchant ships have my sighs drowned? Who says my tears have overflowed his ground? When did my colds a forward spring remove? When did the heats, which my veins fill, add one more to the plaguey bill? Soldiers find wars, and lawyers find out still litigious men which quarrels move, though she and I do love. Call us what you will. We are made such by love. Call her one, me another fly, or tapers too, and at our own cost die. And we in us find the eagle and the dove. The phoenix riddle hath more wit by us. We two, being one, are it. So to one neutral thing both sexes fit. We die and rise the same, and prove mysterious by this love. We can die by it, if not live by love. And if unfit for tombs and hearse our legend be, it will be fit for verse. And if no piece of chronicle we prove, we'll build in sonnets pretty rooms. As well a well-wrought urn becomes the greatest ashes as half-acre tombs. And by these hymns, all shall approve us canonized for love, and thus invoke us. You, whom reverend love made one another's hermitage. You, to whom love was peace, that now is rage, who did the whole world's soul contract and drove into the glasses of your eyes, so made such mirrors and such spies that they did all to you epitomize. Countries, towns, courts, beg from above a pattern of your love.
Our next competitor says she does research on a poet when she's introduced to a new piece of text for performance to help her understand the poem better by understanding the poet. She says, when reciting the poem, I have an image for each word in each stanza, which also makes it easier for me to remember the poems. It's like a movie playing in my head, and I'm just telling you, the audience, exactly what's going on in the movie and what's going to happen next. With her final recitation, Essence Imani Lee.
I Find No Peace by Thomas Wyatt. I find no peace, and all my war is done. I fear and hope. I burn and freeze like ice. I fly above the wind, yet can I not arise. And naught I have, and all the world I season, that loseth nor locketh, holdeth me in prison, and holdeth me not. Yet can I escape no wise, nor letteth me live, nor die at my device. And yet of death it giveth me no occasion. Without iron I see, and without tongue I plain. I desire to perish, and yet I ask health. I love another, and thus I hate myself. I feed me in sorrow and laugh in all my pain. Likewise, displeaseth me both life and death. And my delight is causer of this strife.
One of my favorite poets and a strong advocate for the Poetry Out Loud endeavor, former U.S. Poet Laureate Billy Collins, said this: I'm absolutely in favor of having my students memorize poetry. Once they have the poem internalized, they're really proud. It's a gift. It gets in there young, he says, and it stays. My mother lived until 97, and she remembered poems she'd learned as a schoolgirl. We hope these poems stay with these young people for a long while. With the final recitation of today's contest, Sam Pointer.
I Am the People, The Mob by Carl Sandburg. I am the people, the mob, the crowd, the mass. Do you know that all the great work of the world is done through me? I am the working man, the inventor, the maker of the world's food and clothes. I am the audience that witnesses history. The Napoleons come from me, and the Lincolns. They die, and then I send forth more Napoleons and Lincolns. I am the seed ground. I am a prairie that will stand for much plowing. Terrible storms pass over me. I forget. The best of me is sucked out and wasted. I forget. Everything but death comes to me and makes me work and give up what I have, and I forget. Sometimes I growl, shake myself, and spatter a few red drops for history to remember. Then I forget. When I, the people, learn to remember, when I, the people, use the lessons of yesterday and no longer forget who robbed me last year, who played me for a fool, then there will be no speaker in all the world say the name, the people, with any fleck of a sneer in his voice or any far-off smile of derision. The mob, the crowd, the mass will arrive then.
Thank you, performers. That concludes round 3. I hope that in the journey through the preparation of these poems, you've been able to draw things from them to help you construct your own verse that will be your life. Let's give them a collective round of applause as we end the contest. Thank you, students, for changing our relationship with poetry a bit today. So now I'll ask Nola Ruth and Beverly Strohmeyer from the Missouri Arts Council to come forward where they will present our awards.
Okay, first I'm going to announce a runner-up. This year's runner-up is Sara Ashbaugh. Okay, and now for this year's winner. This year's winner is Thomas Fields.
And the trophy.
All right. And this is the trophy that goes to the school. It's a traveling trophy, and each winner since the beginning is on this trophy, and then the school will get a permanent trophy as well.
Thank you.
Congratulations to all of our regional champions and the 2014 Missouri State champion who will represent us in Washington, D.C. next month.